Hey guys, what's up? My name is Rami and I am the creator of Rami's Food Cuisine. This will be my very first YouTube video that I'm launching with you guys. And today we are going to be making broccoli and chicken Alfredo rolls. Here on the screen are all the ingredients that you will need for this delicious recipe. First thing you're going to do is oil your pan up with some extra virgin olive oil or oil of your choice. Also, make sure your fire is at like a medium level and make sure it's not too high. As you can see, our oil is hot, and I am now going to add our chicken. And make sure when y'all add your chicken that y'all do not be as rough as I just was, because we don't want to be having to clean up a bunch of oil from the stove top and a black backsplash and all that, when you could just be nice and gentle and just avoid that issue in total. As you can see, I am flattening out the chicken so it can cook evenly on both sides, so that when I go to flip the chicken is cooking evenly on both sides. It's not cooking more on one side than it is the other side. Now here's the fun part. Now we're going to get into all the seasonings. As you can see, I'm going in heavy with some black pepper. And the next seasoning that I am going to use, one of my personal favorites, I'm going to use some garlic powder. Don't go too heavy with the garlic though, because that can overtake the dish. Next thing we're going in with is our onion powder. Don't go too heavy with that either, because you don't want it to take away from all the other flavors. You just want enough, especially when you're using garlic powder and onion powder. It's very overpowering, so if you use too much, it can take away from the dish. The next thing we're going to use is a little bit of Old Bay. My Old Bay is like broke at the top, and I didn't feel like playing with that lid today. So as you can see, I put in a little nice little glass, and I'm putting in little pinches of Old Bay, if you will. As you can see, I'm mixing the chicken around, and I'm making sure that it's cooking evenly on both sides, and I'm getting those seasonings mixed well within the chicken. That's why you see me going back and forth, up and down, round and round, all around the pan. Don't be scared to scrape the pan a little bit. That's why I like to use like silicone utensils, because it does not scratch my pans. So it's safe to do so with like silicone utensils. It's better to mix with those, in my opinion, of course. But as you can see, I'm getting that chicken all nice and brown. Not too brown, because I still want it to be a little juicy. Keep in mind, you want to cook this chicken for 8 to 12 minutes, depending on how much chicken you're actually cooking. You want it to have like a nice golden brown to it. Make sure you don't overcook your chicken, because you do not want your chicken to be dry inside of your egg rolls, because that is just, no, we don't want that. Once your chicken gets to this type of golden brown, it's pretty much just done. And keep in mind, you are still going to deep fry these inside of the egg roll, so it will further cook. So that's why I say you don't want to overcook them. So now we can prepare to take this chicken off the stove. Now we're going to prepare to start cutting our broccoli up. As you can see, it's no grammarly correct way to cut up the broccoli. I just tend to cut off the stem of the broccoli and chop the top part of it up really nice and fine. Not too fine though, because you don't want like little teeny pieces of broccoli just all throughout the entire thing. You do want to keep them a nice size, but you don't want them to be too big inside of the egg roll as well. So this is what I do. This is what I'm showing you guys here on the screen, how I chop up the broccoli. As you can see, I just cut off the stem, and I'm just going to cut the remaining broccoli you see in the remaining smaller stem, just a tad bit smaller, to make it easier while I'm putting it inside of the egg roll. Once your broccoli gets to a consistency of this and look like this, and they're all cohesive and in uniform, just like this, as you see here on the screen, you want to make sure you rinse your broccoli off right before you cook it. That way you get all the dirt and grime off of it. Now we have our water steaming on the stove. We can add our broccoli, and keep in mind, we're only going to steam this for about 3 to 5 minutes, not even. You don't want to over steam the broccoli, because you don't want the broccoli to get mushy. Here's when I go in to see if the broccoli is done. I go in and I put a little bit of broccoli on of the spatula, and I squeeze it like so, and if it comes right apart, then I know my broccoli is done and I am preparing to take it off the stove. Okay, here is when we will start cutting up our chicken. Keep in mind, you don't want to cut the chicken too small, but you don't want to cut it too big either, because you are going to put this inside of an egg roll that you're going to have to wrap. And you still want the egg roll to have a nice shape and form. You don't want the chicken to be so big and bulky that it is throwing the form of the egg roll off. So you want to get it into nice little rectangles and squares like how you see me doing here in the video. Want your chicken to be cut up just like this. As you can see, you see rectangles and squares, and just look how juicy that chicken is. It's not dried out, it's nice and juicy and ready to be used for our egg rolls. Just look at it. Now we're about to make our Alfredo sauce from scratch. In this video, you are kind of getting like a 2-for-1, because I'm teaching you guys how to make chicken Alfredo egg rolls, but I'm also teaching you guys how to make your own sauce from scratch. So without further ado, let's get into it. As you can see, I am melting our butter down. I use half a stick. The way making a roux for your Alfredo sauce works, or making any kind of roux usually works, is you use a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every ounce of butter you use, you're going to use 2 ounces of flour along with it. So, and if I said that backwards, correct me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. But yeah, so you're going to see me do that here on the video. As you can see, I'm adding our flour. I got a whisk, and I'm whisking it in. And make sure your fire is not too high. You want to make sure your fire is at a warm, like warming temperature, because you don't want to starch your roux, which means burn your roux, because if you burn it, you're going to taste it throughout the whole sauce that you're making, or whatever you're making. So as you see, I'm just tapping and adding a little bit more flour in there from the measuring cup. And that measuring cup you see is 1/4 of a cup. And I wound up using about half of the 1/4 for this particular recipe. So you can follow that same guideline. Making a roux, it looks a lot more intimidating than it actually is. You just have to kind of gauge and know your measurements, which I'm clearly giving to you guys right there. And I will also put it in the description below so that you guys can follow it. As I said, I only used about half of that 1/4. As you can see, it's starting to take like a pasty feel from the roux, and now I'm adding my heavy creamer in, which is room temperature, by the way. It's very important to make sure your heavy creamer or milk or whatever liquid you're using to make your roux is at room temperature, because that is going to help you a lot in the long run, because it's not having to warm up as long as it would if you had just got it out of the refrigerator, which would make the flour in your roux clump up more. So you want to make sure that you have room temperature liquid products that you're using as far as milk and creamer. And you just want to go ahead and keep on mixing that in. You just keep mixing it. This is going to definitely be a look at a flip of the wrist kind of moment. So if you think that it's just going to be really, really fast and your roux is going to be done, no, it's going to take just a little bit, but it's not as long as you're probably thinking. As you can see, now it's starting to take that sauce consistency. As you can see, it's starting to thicken up, and I'm just gradually adding milk into it now. I used 1 cup of creamer, then I loosened it with milk because I did not want my Alfredo sauce to be too thick. So now I wound up using 2 half cups of milk, which would equate to 1 full cup of milk total. So you use 1 cup of creamer, and you're going to use 1 cup of milk. And that is heavy whipping cream, by the way, not just regular creamer. Heavy whipping cream. You're going to use 1 cup of that, and then you're going to use 1 cup of milk. As you can see, that sauce is looking beautiful. It's coming along just great. And when I tell you, oh my goodness, it's just beautiful. I couldn't stop looking at it myself. I rewind this part a million times while making it, because it just looks that amazing. As you can see, I just went in with some more milk. And now I'm going in with some Parmesan cheese. Now for this part, you can actually use whatever kind of cheese you like, but for me, for my sauce, I like Parmesan cheese. It gives it like a rich Italian-y flavor, and that's how I like my sauce. And I'm going in with some more milk. Again, I use 2 half cups of milk, which equates to 1 cup of milk. And the reason I say half cups, because when you see me pouring, you're never going to see it full to the top when I'm using the milk. As you can see, I'm just stirring away. Look at the flick of the wrist. You know, I just got it going. I got it going on, just flipping and flipping and flipping, and I'm stirring and stirring and stirring to get that cheese well incorporated and allow it to continue to melt down. As you can see, I'm adding more milk so that the cheese is not thickening it up too much because we're not making cheese sauce. We are making Alfredo sauce, which we want to make sure that we have a great sauce consistency. So as you can see, I'm doing a milk stir technique. I'm adding milk while stirring, and I'm doing it in batches. As you can see, I'm just got it going. I got my wrist flipping. I got that whisk going. I got the milk pouring just to get the consistency that I am looking for. As I continue to stir and that heat continues to work and melt everything to an even consistency, I'm starting to get that sauce paste that I would like. And as you can see, right about here is where you want to be. You see how that sausage is dripping? It's not too cheesy. Now here is where we will be adding all of our seasonings in. I'm going in with the pepper. The next thing I'm going in with is the onion powder. And remember what I told you about onion powder and garlic powder. Don't go too heavy because it can make or break a dish because of how strong it is. Then we're going in with our garlic powder. And keep in mind, this is a sauce, so you're going to see these sauces running through. It's not just going to be clean and clear. Then we're going in with our Italian seasoning. And then the next thing we're going to go in with is our basil. Basil is one of my favorite herbs. I love it. When I tell you, it's just so good to me. And Italian and basil, it complements each other very, very well. But again, don't use too much of that either because it could be kind of potent tasting. Now we're going to sprinkle some pinches of Obey in there and just give it a nice good stir and get everything well incorporated, well mixed in. And this is exactly how it should look. This is exactly how your sauce should look. As you see, I still have the fire on, but it's on like a melt. Because on my stove I have the melt feature, so it's not too high, but it keeps it nice and warm for what I need to do. So you want it to be just like this, which is perfect. This is how you want your sauce to look. Just look at the way it fall off of that whisk. And don't mind me, I love putting my thumbs up in these videos. I don't know why, but it's just something that I do for you guys to know that it's good. So now I put our Alfredo sauce in a measuring cup, and this is how it looks. This again is the consistency you want. Now you can see it in depth. It was so tasty. When I tell you guys I tasted it, it was amazing. I make it like this all the time. Even when I'm making like Alfredo and stuff just by itself, this is how I make my sauce each and every time. And I will drop another video on just the sauce so that you guys can know how to make it through and through and be able to just go and watch a video on how to make the Alfredo sauce by itself. Now off to our next step, we are going to take those 2 eggs that you saw in the beginning of the video with the rest of the ingredients. You're going to take those and crack them into a nice clean bowl with a whisk or a fork. Me, I like a fork because I've been so used to mixing with a fork when it comes to eggs, so I like that better. You're going to whisk until it is completely incorporated. When I say that the egg needs to be completely mixed, you don't want to see no air pockets or anything like that. You want it to be completely mixed because this is what's going to help hold your egg rolls together. This is what you call your egg wash. Once you get about here, you are good to go. So here we have our egg rolls, and they are plant-based. I didn't intentionally buy them plant-based, but this is the brand that I always use, and I like them. They have a really good consistency with their egg rolls. So what I like to do is I like to start to separate them and get them all like nice and ready so that we could begin to fill them with our chicken, our broccoli, our Alfredo sauce, cheese, and our seasonings. So that's what I'm preparing to do right now. As you can see, I'm going in with our Alfredo sauce first. I like to do this technique in layers because number one, the Alfredo sauce is going to keep everything inside pretty moist. The next I go in with our chicken, our chopped up pieces of chicken. Then I top that with our chopped up broccoli. After I put that chopped up broccoli on the chicken, sometimes I'll add a few more pieces of chicken on the broccoli. Then I'll go ahead and add some Parmesan cheese, and I also add mozzarella cheese just because I just love cheese. So if you're anything like me, you're gonna love cheese. I hit it with a pinch of Obey because I feel like that just intensifies the flavor a little bit. And I'm going to top it with a little bit more of Alfredo sauce. And the reason I do all of this is because it really helps lock in that moisture. And it really gives the whole Alfredo egg roll in total a very good juicy flavor. Like it gives it a really good consistency when you break it open. And here you see me, I am folding it. For this specific technique, I wanted to fold it more so in squares for plating purposes, but you can fold it in a cylinder, as like a cylinder, I guess you would call it, which is more circular. But like I said, for this specific video and technique, I wanted to do it in more of a square, but it's still going to look amazing when you plate it. As you can see, I am going in with that egg wash because like I said, the egg wash is what's going to help hold it together. You want it to be nice and sealed. You don't want it to be like falling apart when you put it in the oil. And as I always say, you can never have too much egg wash. Just don't put it all over. Just as far as like where the flaps are that you're folding, make sure it's like really tightly secure as you see me doing here in the video. You want to make sure it's completely secure because you do not want it to bust open while it's frying, because that is just going to create a total mess, and it's going to set the tone for the rest of you frying the rest of the egg rolls, and you don't want that. Now this is how it should look when you're frying it. When it's about ready to be pulled out of the oil, this is exactly the color and texture that you want it to have. Excuse my stove top because I definitely cleaned that afterwards, but the oil was oiling, okay? It did not want to give me a break. I kept wiping and wiping. I said, you know what? I'm going to just have to tell the people on YouTube that, listen, this is just kind of what happens when you cook. But here is the finished product. When I tell you, this was so good. Oh my goodness, I probably ate every last single one damn near myself. And when I tell you, it was so good. It was so just juicy. The chicken was juicy, mixed in with that cheese and that Alfredo sauce and all the seasonings, the egg roll. It just, everything was amazing. When I tell you, you will not be disappointed when you make this recipe. And then I made some fries with it. I did not record myself making the fries, but one day I will show you how to do that as well. And I made them Cajun style. As you can see, they're nice and seasoned as well. I'm telling you, you must try this recipe. It was so good. And I just had to show you how it looked when I ripped it open. It was so cheesy and creamy, and just look at that. Look, it's dripping, literally. Like, just look at that cheese melt, and it's just like, oh my goodness, it was so good. And I cannot wait for you guys to try this. If you would like to see more videos like this, just please hit the subscribe button, and I have more coming your way.